which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Patel, can you please read the land acknowledgement?
Yes. The Pacifica School District acknowledges that we gather on the unceded ancestral homelands of the Ramaytush Ohlone people. The Ramaytush Ohlone are the original stewards of this land, and their stewardship continues. As guests, we humbly extend our gratitude to the Ramaytush Ohlone elders and community. We recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. The Ramaytush Ohlone understood the interconnectedness of all things and maintained harmony with nature for millennia. Therefore, Pacifica School District commits to teaching our school community how to be responsible stewards of this land.
Thank you. Barbara, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Trustee Berdal.
Here.
Trustee Burkini.
Here.
Trustee Doggett.
Here.
Trustee Patel.
Here.
Trustee Villalobos.
Here. The district digitally records the audio portion of meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. In-person speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please complete a request card with your name, address, and the item number and submit it to the board president or the superintendent. You will be called to address the board and may speak for up to 3 minutes. Virtual speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. Okay. Report out on closed session items. The board met in closed session regarding public employee performance, superintendent, and no action was taken. Okay. Item 7, reorganization. It is recommended that the board of trustees elect officers to the 2022 calendar year and appoint the president, vice president, clerk, and vice clerk, and appoint the superintendent as secretary of the board. Okay, we will now take nominations for board president. I want to start by nominating Ty Doggett for president for 2022. Do I have a motion to approve?
Oops, do we need a second?
Oh, do we need, yes.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All those
All those in favor? Okay.
motion passes 4-0.
So at this point is where we stand up and shoot that way and everyone will count? Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Rotate in front of you.
We have to bring our name card.
Hand it over to
Oh,
you.
yeah, bring down.
Oh, your name tag.
I can help you move stuff. You got it on?
It's all you.
So much pressure. Yeah.
We will now take nominations for clerk. I'd like to nominate Laverne Villalobos as clerk.
Do we have a second for
I'll second.
all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to read that.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
So before we go to the vice clerk, just a really quick piece is that we don't have a board policy for vice clerk. As long as I was here, we had a vice clerk, but when we picked Dee for a short 3 months, we just never filled the vice clerk position. So we could either eliminate it or go for it. I just think it has to be, it doesn't have to be a full-on vote, but just some direction from the board. I didn't want to eliminate it without some brief discussion.
You've had it. I don't think it's ever been used in the 7 years I've been here.
Once.
For someone actually did
Yeah, when
something.
the clerk wasn't here.
Should we keep going and have it?
I think it's just, you know what I'm saying?
I think you got it.
It's like a backup.
Okay, very good.
It's like the vice president.
Exactly. We should, in our 144 policies, we'll put the vice clerk in there. Okay.
So we'll now take nominations for vice clerk.
I'll nominate me to that as vice clerk.
We have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
All right, we'll now take action to appoint Heather Olson, superintendent, as secretary of the board. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of Heather as secretary of the board?
All motion to approve, Dr. Olson, secretary.
Have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Oh, so this is where it says that we should switch
Yeah.
seats? We already did that.
All right. So it is recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt the proposed committee assignments for the 2022 calendar year. So let's look at it.
Before we do that, actually, it's not, we have to have a discussion on that, so let me pull up the assignments. Sorry. So the schools we have traditionally done as a school year, so I actually may have misspoken when I was with some trustees, but if we think about, this is a great opportunity to think about new committees. So this is B, right? Well,
That is, yeah, that's B, display B.
oh, okay. Oh, you guys won't be able to see that, right? Let me put it on A. Display A. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna make it bigger. There we go. If you are on a committee and would like to stay, please feel free to say that. But if you're on a committee and looking for a new experience, this is our opportunity to change committees. So we'll start with we're not doing strategic plan this year, but the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan, is probably up to about 4 meetings, and those dates haven't been set yet. So are there trustees that would like to join that?
Is there a requirement around number of trustees per?
There isn't, I think, minimum of 1. We don't typically do more than 2 because then it would have to be agendized. Trustee Villalobos actually had a really good point last year when we were talking about it, is that we often assign 2 trustees and both of them show up. And we don't always need that. Like, there's so much to do as we get into the spring that you could certainly trade off on that. So.
I wouldn't mind staying on the LCAP.
Okay,
Okay,
you're good staying?
yeah.
Okay, we'll keep going. Audit review was 1 meeting in January, was 4 hours. This last, I think, during COVID time, it was very, very rushed, but it's essentially you review the audit and before it comes to the board.
I'll take a year off from that.
You're up, okay, very good.
I'd like to join it.
Okay. Do we need 2, Josie, or just 1?
We normally have 2, but 1 is fine.
I'll keep going. Pacifica Ed Foundation, they typically have multiple fundraiser events. They haven't had any in person yet, but they intend to have one, would love to have one.
I didn't get to go to any.
Yeah, they'd love to have one this spring, and I remember the one right before the pandemic, we were all there, so.
I'd like to stay just because I didn't
Okay.
do anything last year.
Okay. Special Ed Parent Advisory Committee, those are, there are many special ed parent meetings that are going on. The CPAC is one of those, and we may see some of those committees blend a little bit more together, but there are typically 4 meetings during the year.
Can I just recommend maybe 2 people, just because Elizabeth and I have been switching off with the coffees, morning coffee once a month, because I work and, she has more flexibility. So I think it would be good if there were 2 people,
So-
just in case we could
So
switch
we're
off.
talking specifically for the special ed parent committee meeting that meets with John Barkfield, not all of the special ed meetings. I do think it would be great to have 2, but but we're not talking about all special ed meetings. Like they have parent ed, they have a parent advisory committee, they have the Wednesday morning coffees. And so we're just talking about specifically the special ed parent advisory committee that meets 4 times a year.
I mean, I can still do the mornings, but if you wanted to stay on the evening one.
Is everybody okay?
So I want to be clear, the board does not have an official position that includes the parent caucus. I think it's great if we go, but it's not an official board position.
I think I kind of like, it's an opportunity to get to know the parents, kind of like PEF, even though there's only one person who does that, we all go to the fundraisers. And like that.
I can support that with Laverne.
Facilities master plan, I actually meant to check in with Cece about whether we will be having any meetings. I don't know that we will have any meetings coming up. We're going to have an enormous amount of work that we're doing, but I don't know that there are going to be any facilities master planning committee meetings. Josie, what's your sense?
It's really the bond oversight. Is that the same thing, right?
Well, no, because board members would not sit on the bond oversight because essentially the bond oversight really is overseeing the work of the board and the district to make sure that we're using it in the right place. So I think the facilities master plan, I don't think we should make any changes. I don't expect that we'll be having any meetings. I think that work is mostly done.
That's correct.
Okay. Workforce housing committee?
I'd like to stay on this committee.
Yeah, and I want to stay on that. That's my main reason for still being here.
Okay, very good. And then just standing committees that we have, the parcel tax oversight committee. So again, as a board member, you would be a non-voting member because it wouldn't be appropriate for the board to be overseeing the board and the district.
I'm willing to, and if someone else wants it, they're welcome to, or I can stay on.
Okay, I can try that one,
Okay.
if there's nobody else.
And so the intention is that we will have the bond oversight and the parcel tax oversight on the same night, on January 11th. And the board members are just simply there. It's not participatory or voting. Wellness committee did not meet in 2021, but we probably will have one meeting in this spring.
I'd like to relieve myself of that. I'd like to relieve myself of that committee.
Got it.
I can join it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the next ones, Library Advisory Committee was another good committee for you, Kai. They also, it's an official city council meeting that gets agendized, and they did not meet in 2021. I say at this point, until they get up and going, we not put somebody on there. And then for the Pacifica Collaborative, typically I attend. Elizabeth has been attending with me in the past.
I'm okay with staying with that unless someone wants, I know it conflicts with lots of people's work schedules and that's I have the availability.
Okay. The next one's an interesting one as well, and I can't speak to how it got started, but it is typically the city The North County Water, which is very active right now, talking about drought and water restrictions, and Jefferson Union High School District, and ourselves. We have not yet met this year, just because people have been so busy. That is a committee where we do have 2 trustees, but we only need 1 to attend each time. The date that's starting actually is January 6th. I'm working on the wrong committee. January 6th is the very first one. This year we're going to be virtual, but probably will be in person. Anybody need that one? Interested? Okay. Did I see your hand kind of go up, Linda?
Yeah, I don't mind being involved if Elizabeth wants to.
Yeah, if you'd like to, that's fine.
Perfect. And then, I think, moving back into the in-person world is, I think that the county superintendent updates are ending, is that true?
I don't recall hearing that.
Okay, I wondered if that was the case, but San Mateo County School Boards is resuming their meeting schedule. And so we should probably have 1 member of our board just be the liaison with San Mateo County School Boards.
I mean, I don't mind being part of that still.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we need to have somebody be on the Kent Awards Committee. Last year, every school district was awarded a Kent Award. And the awards happened via Zoom, so I don't think, unless anybody's eager to be a part of that, I don't think that's necessary. The governing board, Linda was a part of this, and this is actually one of our obligations, is that we have to find somebody to be a representative on that, and Linda was a part of one meeting that met in November 2021, and they elected a smaller body of people to make decisions about school district organizations.
I don't mind doing it again, unless someone else wants to do it.
Okay, is that okay with all of you? Okay. That being said, thank you very much. I'm going to rely on Barbara to make sure that we have a cleaned up list. But with that being said, this is an action item where you, is there approval on this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So do I have a motion to approve the committee assignments for 2021 or 2022?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Motion passes 5-0, thank you.
Great. Resolution number 2021-12-15-A, delegation of authority. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve resolution number 2021-12-15-A, delegation of authority from Board of Trustees to the Superintendent for the 2022 calendar year. So the delegation of authority gives authority to the superintendent to address routine district management activities. The adoption of the resolution summarizes district practice. So no presentation. All right, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2021-12-15A, delegation of authority?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Motion passes 5-0, thank you.
All right, approval of minutes of December 1st, 2021. That's you?
Oh, it's recommended that the board approve the minutes of the December 1st, 2021 board meeting.
Are there any questions regarding the minutes of December 1st, 2021 regular meeting? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 1st, 2021?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 12/1/21.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
All right. Approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following the approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the approval of the agenda or consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
All right. These are all done. Yeah. So, communications, okay. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda items or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last names and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board and your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. LSEA,
Actually, we don't have them still on the screen. The Zoom has to go up the screen. Sorry, Megan.
Hello?
Hello, we have you, but we don't have your picture. There we go.
Okay.
Now we have your picture.
Okay, how are you?
Good.
You can hear me fine?
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't know. Last time it was hard.
All right,
All right,
good
good
evening.
evening. LSEA and the district finished negotiating
Our MOU for a full return to in-person instruction. We have been working on this since August. Both parties have signed and it will come to you in January for approval. We are pleased with the bargained additional COVID sick days and the language we've developed together around natural disaster protocol and expectations of teachers in these situations. While we are pleased with these two items, overall, LSEA is saddened by the district's position on 2 key points. The district team continued to drag its heels on insisting we have in-person meetings at the administrator's discretion. We wanted it to be a mutually agreed upon decision, ensuring all involved felt safe. We also wanted members who are receiving close contact COVID exposure notifications after work hours to receive a courtesy call or text. The district team thought that was too much and teachers should just be checking their work email during non-working hours. We keep tossing easy balls to the district to show appreciation towards our members, let us feel safe and supported, and yet the district keeps letting those balls fly by. These would have been such easy gives to make our teachers feel confident, safe, and secure as we continue to teach during a pandemic. We are looking forward to beginning our work on contract negotiations. One of the mutually agreed upon items is calendar. Our teams met and have a proposed calendar ready for you for the 2022-2023 school year. LSEA was expecting the calendar on tonight's agenda. The district has traditionally had an interest to get a calendar out early to its community, but it seems the district team will now be waiting until January to put forth the calendar proposal. This means our members and the community must wait too. Despite these hiccups, the LSEA bargaining team is hopeful for a productive negotiations year. We are grateful for the district's commitment to the interest-based bargaining process. We have a lot to get through and hope the district wants to shift back to where we were, working with us and supporting us. This was apparent today when Carla and John met with members of LSEA to refine protocols and procedures for COVID safety. We appreciate their time and teamwork. We hope everyone has a restful and safe winter break. Thank you.
I don't know that I see Nicole on here. You guys see Nicole?
I saw her. I mean, I
Oh,
saw
there
her.
she is. Perfect. Need some sound? You're muted.
Yeah, it's on you.
Nicole, you're muted.
Okay, I'm not muted now. Okay, hello. My name is Nicole Sayers. I'm the president of CSEA. Tonight, I would like to let you know that we were thrilled to present our Above and Beyond Award to Yolanda Peraza. Yolanda was nominated because she goes above and beyond every day to help our students and staff. She is the first to arrive and usually the last to leave. She always has a smile on her face and is always gracious. Even though she has extremely busy days, she always has time to say hello and ask, how are you doing? It was the highlight of my day to see her surprised smile when we offered her our token of appreciation. Thank you so much, Yolanda, for all that you do. Just one quick second story about appreciation, and it comes to me from somebody at Ocean Shore School. I heard that there was a 5th grader, and she saved her money all this year and decided to go out and purchase gifts for the SDC students at her school. The students that she gifted were delighted, as this is not the usual occurrence for them. And their parents were like, where did these plush toys come from? I do not know who this specific student is, but I thank her for her kind heart in this holiday season. That brings me to my third piece of information that I wanted to share with the board, and that is free money for the classified employees through the CSEA Summer Benefits Assistance Program. This program would serve classified employees who make less than $62,400 and work under 12 months yearly. Those members would agree to deduct 10% or less of their monthly wages to be put towards a savings account within the county. Then in the summer, the earned money will be matched up dollar for dollar, and this is a way for the district to help our classified employees earn extra money at no additional cost to the district. This is a program that the Jefferson Unified School District has participated in for 2 years. I spoke to one of the payroll technicians in this neighboring district, and he stated that although he is not eligible to participate in this program himself, the positive responses from the employees who participate is worth the extra effort he puts into this program. He said that the program has made the morale
Lights are taken off.
There you go, we got you.
Are you okay? Are we okay? We make considerably less than other districts within our county, and this would be a positive way that the Pacifica School District could help our employees save extra money at no cost to the district. This is free money, and I urge you, the board of directors and the district, to bring this program forward to help us make ends meet for our CSEA members. The deadline for the district to send out letters to eligible employees is January 1st, 2022. As we go into the holiday break, I just want you to know that I am completely happy to help the district meet this deadline in any way I can. All we need to do is send an email to the classified employees stating that the district is moving forward with this program. I would never waste your time with something I did not feel was important to our members. This benefit program is definitely something I feel confident talking to you about. If one of our members saves $1,000, their return is very close to $2,000. With higher prices at the grocery store, the gas station, and everywhere else, this could really help our members breathe a little easier. This is a compassionate thing to do. Please consider taking on the CSEA Summer Benefit Assistance Program. Call me, email me, or talk to me any way you can. I am 100% happy to help us get this done, even through the holidays by January 1st, 2020. I hope you all have good holidays, and I thank you for your time.
People wishing to address the board?
Rachel Merlot.
Hi, Rachel, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We get started. Is your topic dress code, dress policy?
It is, but I wanted to, if I could just do a public comment because I have to get my child into finish homework and bed. Okay, sorry.
No problem.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and start. So hello, I'm Rachel Merlot, and I just wanted to comment on the board's discussion regarding eliminating language around clothing depicting gang affiliation. I did email a letter to the board members stating some of my concerns, and I just wanted to say thank you to those who responded and took the time to read it. Just to follow up with a few points, I understand that there is board policy around gang activity stating that any student suspected of gang affiliation based on the display of behavior, gestures, apparel, or paraphernalia shall be referred to the principal or designee. And I must ask, isn't this an example of what school site rules and guidelines are based on? If it is stating this in the board policy, why shouldn't it be stated in the school dress code? The school handbook is the main place students and families look for clear guidelines on what is accepted at school, and it seems that to remove this language would not be helpful in that matter. As I stated in my letter, I applaud many aspects of the board amending dress code and want to ensure that teachers are able to have and maintain safe environments for students to learn. I encourage the board to move forward with supporting and funding training for all staff around bias and cultural sensitivity, and I would be very happy to talk further and to look at other ways to address that and to still be able to allow students to express themselves through their clothing and to support that in general clothing does not disrupt our school environment, but to continue to make sure that we have a level of safety and security for all students who attend school. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. The next speaker is Patrick Sayers from Pacifica School Volunteers.
Hello.
Hi, Patrick.
I'd just like to take a minute to update any of the board members who may be unfamiliar with the Pacifica School Volunteers. I just wanted to let you know that we are an independent nonprofit organization, and we collaborate with the Pacifica School District to place qualified volunteers in classrooms to work on academics with students one-on-one or in small groups under the supervision of our certified teachers. Our primary focus is to increase the literacy levels of students struggling in reading and comprehension. In recent years, we have had an increase in requests to help students with math, science, and English as a second language. Under federal mandates for volunteers working with students in public schools, our volunteers are required to pass federal Department of Justice fingerprint background checks and provide a negative TB test before starting work with students. Since the reopening of the school sites, PSV has worked with the district to provide a COVID-safe return of volunteers to the classroom. Our volunteers must show proof of dual vaccination levels and wear a mask at all times while at school. We are now enrolling volunteers and encourage school principals and teachers to contact PSV with their volunteer needs. Thank you and have a great holiday.
Thank you, Pat. No more speakers?
Correspondence?
The correspondence I was going to bring to your attention was the letter I received from Rachel Merlot, and I believe you've all received it, and she highlighted the points in her public comment.
Board communication?
I can start. I attended the Pacifica collaboration meeting. It was the first time that we had it in person in almost 2 years. And so that was a lot of fun, and it was mainly get together and catch up with everyone and making Christmas ornaments. So Mary Beer had it. Very nice first time to get back together and see everyone. Met with Dr. Olson. Also had the music meeting and the San Mateo County Superintendent call. Star Vista had a meeting today, just going over their different programs, so participated in that. And the vaccine clinic up at Sunset Ridge on Tuesday, which was for the second vaccine. And I think we had planned on 500 doses. I think we had between 450 or 500, but actually completed both vaccines. So it was really encouraging to be part of a possible solution to everyone.
My communications involved school visits with Superintendent Olson as well as Trustee Ropini to all the schools except I did not attend the IBL and I believe Sunset Ridge school visits, and I hope to schedule those soon after the holidays.
I had 2 site visits, one to Ortega and one to Ocean Shore School. And then I had my monthly meeting with Dr. Olson.
I had the monthly call with Nancy McGee from the county superintendent's office. I also did the walkthrough through all the school sites with Dr. Olson and mostly with Trustee Patel. I was glad to see kids back in school. The other thing I was really happy to see is a lot of computers open on desks, far more than 3 years ago. There's lots of active learning, and one takeaway is that teachers are feeling tired and they feeling like a lot is coming on and they would like more support, and we absolutely understand that. And basically I just also want to say thanks for all the people that brought us around the schools, because it was really good to get out and see everybody, so that's my communication.
And I met with Dr. Olson twice since the last time we met. Unfortunately, I had to have a self-precautionary quarantine, so couldn't do more. All right, so let's see. District business, district goals. The district values the goals provided by our local control accountability plan and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those goals can be accessed on our district website at www.pacificasd.org. All right, 11A, approval of an educator effectiveness block grant plan. Goal LCAP 1, 2, and 3. And that's Will.
Yes, thank you. This is what I put before you is a recommendation for the board to approve the Educators Effectiveness Block Grant Plan as presented. This plan was discussed at our last December 1st meeting, and based off the input that was brought and discussed amongst the board members, the only change is that an action was added to section 6 as outlined in the memo. The added plan activity was professional development for teachers in targeted content-based instruction that supports how to teach students who struggle in core subject areas. So that action was added. The rest of the plan is exactly as was presented in the last. So is there any questions?
No questions, but just a comment. I appreciate that addition. I think that'll really support the teachers next year.
Yes.
Thank you.
No questions. All right, do I have a motion to approve the educator effectiveness block grant plan as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the educator effectiveness block grant plan.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. 12, board bylaws, board policies, and administrative regulations. Goal is governance. VP/AR 5132, dress and grooming, goal governance. This is a discussion, and John.
Thank you, and good evening. And we have made some edits and changes based on the board's conversation at the last board meeting to our board policy and administrative regulation for 5132, which I know that you have copies for. The main changes for the board policy is that we have taken out the language referring to gangs and gang-related apparel, and that is the major change since last time. And I know that in the AR, we've also taken out head coverings, that language, and I think we've added hoods as the word there. So those are the two main changes in that board policy. We also remembered that we have a board policy specifically that relates to gangs. It's 5136, board policy 5136, which speaks more of gang prevention, strategies around gang prevention. Just wanted to point that out, the fact that we do have another board policy that does refer to that, preventing gang-related activity in our schools. So we bring these changes forward for your further consideration.
Discussion?
I have a comment. I've just been doing some research around the gang-related apparel, and it's always interesting to go to our surrounding school districts, and surprisingly, Hillsborough does not have a dress code for their elementary school. They just say they need to be dressed nice and neat, shoes, and the middle school was more, they just need to have their bras and underwear covered and not showing. And so just looking at ours, I just kind of feel like it's a little old and outdated, the whole thing. I also feel like this is something where we need additional training on bias, cultural sensitivity with the teachers, specifically the ones who are in contact with the student. And I see, the block grant, we have the diversity, 25,000, but that starts next year. And so I'm just wondering if there's anything we can do for this year, maybe later on. I think the teachers do want more training on this topic. Also, I did have some conversations, and I do support the teachers and the principals in having some kind of lingo and language about gang-related apparel. And I did find something. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. The principal, staff, and parents/guardians at a school may establish a reasonable dress code that prohibits students from wearing gang-related apparel when there is evidence of a gang presence that disrupts or threatens. So this is saying there needs to be evidence. For example, my main worry is that there's going to be a 7th grader who's dressing in red because it's their favorite color, and they're approached, that's a gang-affiliated outfit, and they're not in a gang. And I think it's a slippery slope because, even the police department has lists of students, or I won't say students, but youth that are affiliated in gangs. So I think that's just something that's very dangerous for the school district to get involved in. And so I think there needs to be some kind of evidence before they're approached and, saying that they're wearing something that's gang-related as far as their colors. And so that's a lingo I found, and it's from Fremont Unified School District. And I do believe Fremont does have gangs in a lot of them. So, they just want to make sure that there's some kind of evidence before you approach a student. And I also do not agree with pursuing more discipline as far as the student, who may be wearing gang-related clothes. And I just want to remind everybody that the chief of police even said that we don't have a gang problem in Pacifica, that there is one in Daly City, but not here in Pacifica. It's very, very minimal. And so you know, if somebody's showing up for class, you know, that's wonderful, they're showing up for class, and we should educate them. You know, we shouldn't be so focused on what they're wearing. And I think it was Oceana School who also had a very, I'm gonna just say it's like an updated version, you know, of how things are going with social emotional learning, cultural sensitivity and bias. You know, it's not like no, you know, no. It's not like that. It's like you should just be wearing something that's respectful. And then it says what you have to wear is a shirt, you know, pants and shoes. And then it says what you might want to wear, and then it lists more. You know, instead of like always going for the negativity of the language. So that was just, you know, something I did a little more research on. And I think that's all I have to say. So I am in favor of adding, you know, something as long as there's evidence, just, you know, those 2 sentences. I'm not in favor of more discipline because of what they're wearing. That's also a slippery slope, because what if somebody's parents can't afford clothes and they're taking donations, and, you know, they can't say, well, I can't take that. You know, that's just not how receiving donations works when somebody needs something.
So I wasn't here, I was online, but I wasn't here for our last meeting. We had the discussion. And I feel like, speaking as a Black woman and been subject to bias a lot in my lifetime, especially when I was a teenager, since I wasn't here last time I didn't get to speak on this. The whole word gang really bothers me because it is disproportionately placed on youth of color. And I like that there may be evidence, but it just, if you think about someone saying somebody's wearing a gang affiliated clothing, what does that mean? You know, in your mind, what do you picture? And it makes me, sitting on this board, it makes me very nervous to have anything that says gang in it. I just, you know, I can remember a time when I was 14 years old and somebody in a store pointed me out to a security person, and the security person pulled me aside like I stole something because of my hairstyle. They said she had unusual hair. And I was having to wear bandeau knots. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but the language we choose has to be neutral in terms of bringing up biases. Gang brings up a bias. It just does. We have TV and, you know, movies, and everybody, you all have an image that pops up in your head when you hear the word gang. And I just don't want young people of color to, you know, be subjected just because they happen to be wearing a color or they happen to have a bandana on. Some things are style. And as a, you know, like I said, this was a very traumatic experience for me as a 14-year-old. You know, police were called. My mother was there. I was accused of stealing. I hadn't done anything. And when I was listening to you all last week, I was like, we can't have this word, you know, because what is it? What does that mean? If we can't define it, we shouldn't put it in there. That's how I feel personally. I just know, you know, I've seen it even as kids. People just have this bias. And I really do believe we need bias training for our teachers. But that particular word in dress, it doesn't sit well with me. It would never sit well with me. I just couldn't see, you know, and then I thought, I was like, you know, I'm from DC. I've seen many things in my lifetime. Pacifica doesn't have a gang problem. It just doesn't. And, you know, to me, it's just like, why are we even discussing it? We should have bias training for sure. I mean, doesn't mean that sometime in the future there might be gangs, but we should really choose our language wisely. We already know that, again, as soon as you hear the word gang, everyone in here, everyone online has an image in their head what that is. And we have to really be careful about the words that we choose. So that's my personal feelings on it.
I just thank you guys so much for saying all that. I agree with you 100%. And I just have felt from the beginning, especially coming out of COVID, we should not be, if a child has made it into the classroom, we should for no reason be sending them out unless it's a behavior problem. And then that's a different problem. We're gonna deal with the behavior, not what they happen to be wearing that day. And, you know, like we say, it might be clothes they've grown out with, and so now their midriff is showing, or they just happen to wear clothes that the gang over the, you know, people over the hill think is affiliated with the gang. But again, if they make it to the classroom, I feel like we should be educating them, no matter what they're wearing. You know, in relative reason. So anyway, that's my comment on it.
I'd like to make a comment. So I think when I think about what is the purpose of a dress code policy in general, and others may disagree, but in my mind it's to protect the health and safety of the students and staff as the primary. And so, you know, I was in complete agreement with the request that Trustee Brocchini said around the dress code that I felt also targeted women or young girls. I also feel like some of the comments around hats and hoods not being worn indoors, I don't know that we necessarily need to have that in there as well, so I'd like that to be reconsidered. With respect to the gang-related clothing, I taught at a school that had some gang-related activity, and you know, Trustee Doggy, you're absolutely right that it's not one thing. We had trainings regularly from the police department to give us insight into what to look for in terms of gang insignia or colors, because that also changes. I mean, that, you know, groups of kids, they change what they wear to mean different things at different times. And that was there to protect us as well as protect the other students, so that if we saw an intruder, if we saw something, it was training to help us protect the health and safety of students. So I know Pacifica doesn't today have a gang problem, but the point of a policy is to protect, in my mind, the longer term health and safety of students and staff. I don't know what the right language is, so I'm not making a comment of these two sentences, but historically, gang-related activities have infiltrated public schools, unfortunately. I taught at one that had that, and I do think something related to that kind of dress or teachers being trained on what to look for would be useful to protect the health and safety of students. But I also just want to comment that I think we should also reconsider the hats, caps, and hoods not being worn indoors. One, because it's freezing in all of the schools, and I think there is something to say, you know, your eyes should be visible, and you know there needs to be some facial visibility. But you know, there's religious headwear. There's a lot of stuff that could be considered a hat or a cap, and you know. So, anyways, I would like that to be reconsidered.
Can I comment on these? I agree with you about the caps, baseball caps, and the hoodies. Number one, because ever since we moved to Pacifica 17 years ago, I just noticed that Pacifica, it has a culture, number one, of wearing hoodies because of our weather and it's cold and you can just put it up whenever you're out or somewhere else. So I think it's part of the Pacifica culture. And then also the baseball caps. I mean, baseball in Pacifica is huge. And I know it has to do with, you know, being in there for respect, but I'm going to go back to where I feel like we're kind of really outdated in our language and the policy. And as long as you can see their eyes and their ears, so they're not wearing earbuds, I just don't see the harm in that. You know, I think it would just be very difficult to, you know, hide a piece of paper or something in your hat. I mean, And we don't even use things like that anymore because of the phones. So I agree, you know, with the hoodies and the caps. And I also wanted to comment on Kai. You're absolutely right about the word gang, because once you said that, you know, I saw a few different pictures in my head. And it does have a negative connotation to it when you hear the word. And I'm just wondering what other word or phrase or.
Well, I agree with Nikki that training is important. You know, I've worked in many different youth programs, but in terms of the language that we choose, we have to be careful about the words. If the words already conjure up an image, is that the word we want to use? And unfortunately, we've all been in this society enough that we've seen the word gang flash on the screen and there's an image. I mean, and media is biased. It's a fact, you know. Media is very biased. And when you think of the word criminal, you think of the word gang, you think of the word suspect, all of those words pop up an image in your head. And you've been trained to see this image. So when I was watching the meeting and I was just like, for me, I cannot use this word in good conscience, because this gives an image that, unfortunately, you probably thought of a person of color if you heard the word gang. It's just because that's what you've seen in media for so long. And that means that a child going to school who may have zero gang affiliation, you know, just happen to like you said earlier, just happen to like the color. A teacher might say, well, we can't have any gang activity. I think there's gang activity because this child came in and they wear the same thing every day. We don't know that. And the child is there, and the child's not showing any behavioral issues. You know, it's bias. It's in the culture, and we're all affected by it. So when I think about putting a policy together and thinking about improving policy going forward that is fair, I have to speak up about the words that we use. And that word gang, you know, like I said, my experience, I was 14, and it was traumatizing. I'm not making this up. I really was called out because of a hairstyle. That's just how easy it is. So we have to really think about what words do we use in our policy, but how do we train our teachers to protect our students? Those are two different things, you know. Yeah, maybe one day Pacifica will have a gang problem. I don't really see it happening, but you know, I don't know. But if we do need teachers to be able to recognize it. Like you said, it changes. You know, if anybody has been around any kind of activity with young people and all sorts of craziness, they change their colors, they change their hairstyles, they change their sneakers, their shoelaces. And, you know, even the type of shoe can be affiliated with a group. So that's different. But creating a policy with a word that conjures up a negative image that, you know, disproportionately affects kids of color, we can't do that.
So I have a recommendation for how we can take most of what got said today and still move forward. The only change would be to the administrative regulation, and if we removed hats, caps, and hoods, just took that off, then everything else would stand. We could make that adjustment and still pass the policy in the AR. More extensive changes really probably should go to another meeting. Linda, your thoughts?
I think that's a good plan, and also because we've had different issues across the field around the district around this, it'd be nice to just have a place to start, and then we can continue to discuss.
Okay. Can I just mention the crop tops and the ripped jeans? You know, that's targeting, once again, the females. And I think that, you know, that's also part of the style. And if anybody remembers the movie Clueless from 1995, they were wearing droopy pants even back then. And so that's 27 years ago. And so, you know, I just think that it might be a good idea, maybe, you know, maybe if somebody from the police department can give the staff some training on what's out there, but we don't really even have it here in Pacifica, so, you know, but the training on the bias and the cultural sensitivity, I think is really important. And there was even, I think it was in like 2014 maybe, I started to notice my son was matching his tennis shoes with his hat with the colors, you know, and that was just a trend. That was a trend across the board. And so I think it is a slippery slope.
So I believe that we can pass both BP and AR 5132 with the understanding that in the AR, we take out number 3, hats, caps, and hoods shall be worn indoors. I do believe that there'll have to be a fair amount of communication that will go to the school sites. I will get that out there.
At least with the hats, caps, and hoods, that their eyes have to be visible and their ears, you know, have to be clear. Because, you know, as a parent of a 13-year-old who likes hoodies, I do understand why teachers may not want them to wear the hoodies, but it is cold, and she has made that complaint. So just so that the teachers can see that they are actively participating, there needs to be some kind of parameters around what's on your head and whether can the teacher see your eyes and are your ears clear, no earpieces or anything like that. That should probably be in there.
And then I'm just curious, Dr. Olson, if you were gonna recommend taking out repeated violations or refusal to comply with the district's dress code may result in disciplinary action for
We can take it out if that's the wish of the board. I think, you know, I think if we make more significant changes, we should probably bring it back so that we could at least make sure that we're not kind of cutting and pasting. So my recommendation around the hats was a simple strike through. The other piece, I think, would be the question would be, if so, then what, right? So then there would be repeated.
Well, I think, you know, we're putting a lot of funding into training and the talking circles. And so that would be a resolution or a recommendation, would to do a talking circle with the student and the teacher or whoever is having a conflict in what the student is wearing, rather than disciplining them and removing them from class, you know, and they're losing instruction time again.
Well, I think we should discuss that more, but I also think we kind of need to pass something because we've got several schools with several different policies at this point. So I don't know how everybody feels.
So just a procedural question, when we pass something striking or maybe altering the language around hats or head coverings so that the face is not obscured, what happens to the gang-related clothing piece?
So there was nothing in here that we removed all of the pieces around gang-related.
Okay, so if we pass it, we're passing it with it being completely removed?
Yes.
This is not an actionable item to me.
I'm sorry, it should have been discussion and action.
Just discussion.
Except discussion.
Action. It should have been action, so, probably we will need to bring it back in January. That's too bad if we miss
Yeah,
that.
On the actual official agenda that got posted, it says it's an action.
Oh,
It's a discussion action, and it
Yeah.
has a recommendation
Yeah.
for approval.
We have all sorts of options. I think one of the things that I know is that it will take us a while to get to the perfect dressing grooming policy. And so we can either bring this back to January 19th. That wouldn't be my recommendation. I do think if we remove something as significant around that piece is around what happens with repeated measures. I do think that warrants more discussion and does change the intent of the policy. This is, I want to be clear, we took what we heard from you last time and put that into this formulation. So to redo it, which is certainly the purview of the board, we're happy to do that. I want to be honest, is that to take certain parts and other parts, so clear direction from the five of you would be really helpful to me.
Well, I just want to comment that maybe we could pass it with the hats and caps crossed out this right now. And then also plan that when we have our equity session, coming in January, that we kind of fit this in to kind of talk about some of those pieces. I mean, it's final, I kind of feel like we need a little more talking time and in a more free environment, a little more study, but it's up to you guys.
I just feel like passing it just to pass it is not the right thing to do. I think tabling it and bringing it back for discussion, and perhaps there's people listening and letting them, process what we've all discussed might be better. The thing, whenever, we're like, well, let's just pass it, I'm thinking, well, what is so urgent right now? Is there something happening in a school or with students where, it needs to happen right now? And, that's where I would appreciate a little bit more information from the sites on what is happening around the dress code in their school. Is it unsafe, for teachers right now? Is it unsafe for the students? Is it gang affiliated, or is it just somebody wearing ripped jeans? So that's kind of how I'm feeling, is that we shouldn't just pass something to pass it if we're not feeling fulfilled in what we're doing in our work. I don't know how everybody else feels.
I just want to say one comment that someone wrote to me way back in September 23rd. And they said, my daughter left the house today self-confident and happy about what they wore, but they came home self-conscious and no longer confident about themselves. So I feel like girls are getting hurt. And sometimes far more frequently than we like. And we heard that today. And unfortunately, what I'm hearing from September 3rd, September 24th, October 9th, November 3rd, is that these things are, continuing, and kids are being hurt, and they're being to me, the age it starts happening is in the teen, 11, 12, 13. And those are ages that are so delicate. Kids are just finding themselves, and if they get crushed or first start feeling self-conscious at 11, 12, 13, I mean, like we hear today, it's a whole life of feeling, am I good enough? Maybe I shouldn't do math because they tell me to keep my hand down, So I guess, I feel like damage is being done.
Are we
So-
addressing it in the changes that we're doing?
Well, yes, so that is, the midriff has been removed. Some things, that was never in here, was talking about the short line. Those aren't, and then, so a lot of that has been changed.
So I think the only question is the gang-related apparel. And, you know, I do want to, there was a staff member that expressed some concern around the safety around that language. Now, I don't know what kind of language should be in there, but if we feel pressure to pass at least the part, you know, with the hats and hoods and the see-through tops and bare abdomens that have been removed, I would be willing to pass that. And then approaching it again to reevaluate the gang-related apparel to find better language, since it seems like that needs a bit more discussion. I don't know if that's an approach.
Is there a consensus on, you want to wait, you're okay with passing it? Or?
I changed my mind after hearing Linda's.
Okay. So we want to go forward with a vote? Are we comfortable?
Passing as is?
As it is today.
As is,
With
with
the
the
strike.
understanding hats, hoodies, that gets struck.
And then we will come back at another time to reevaluate and readdress the dress code later.
Yeah, I do think we should take seriously the comment from the staff member around safety, because as a former staff member, that is a big concern, and it's their responsibility to keep the students safe. And policies are there to give teachers the ability to, keep their students safe and make sure that they can speak up when they are concerned about something. I think there's certainly rules that we can place about how they speak up and the way that they address those situations, but I hesitate in that, just the complete removal of that.
With the strike through on the hats and hoodies, about having the ears clear and being able to see the eyes.
We could say that students may wear hats, caps, or hoods, but the students' eyes and ears must be visible to.
All right, so do we have a motion to amend BPAR 5132 with the statement that Heather just made? Do we have a motion for that, to pass that?
And board policy.
And board policy.
I make a motion, pass that.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Motion passes 4-0.
And is this discussion too for the census?
This next one is not.
541.
What's
Oh,
that?
I'm sorry.
The plan for updating board policies.
Pass 5-0. Could I put mine on the screen up there? Display A, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Since my thing says. This is just discussion.
This one is just discussion, it's just information for you, really. So, since the pandemic, we have really only focused on either board policies that came up that needed to get passed. So, for example, our intra-district transfer policy, our student enrollment process, those kinds of things. So we find ourselves behind. I conferred with my fellow superintendents in terms of what we need to do. And we have about 144 board policies or ARs that we need to address. But you always address board policies and ARs as one, right? Like when you're doing them together. So I'm now only counting them as one. I'm not counting them as two, so that will help that. And other advice, legal advice from Claire Cunningham was you certainly want to address the human resources, the personnel items, or any of your district complaint processes, just to make sure that those are up to date so we are going to start with human resources and the complaint procedures, just to get moving on those, because in any legal situation, that's where you go to first. We have 8 board meetings left in 2021, 2022. So we're going to start in January with human resources and complaint policies. There's some very easy low-hanging fruit, which is CSBA has recommended new titles, corrections of numbers. There are 4 obsolete policies. We'll grind through probably 20 policies without batting an eye. And then So HR, I think, will probably take us 2 meetings to get through the bulk. In general, what it will be is approximately somewhere between 10 and 20 policies that would come to you. They are not going to be like the dress policy where we have to think about each word or think about each piece. We typically go off CSBA's recommendation, and we won't be making huge major changes. The ones that are very, very sensitive, like we will have one around suspension and expulsion. That one we're gonna wanna give more time to, right? But in general, it's about catching up and doing business. And so in January and February, we would focus on human resources, personnel matters in general. In March, we would move on to policies about students. And then I think after we complete our special education study, we would look at this. There are a number of special ed policies that were not as up to date as we should. We're probably not that far off, but we do need to address those, and I think sooner rather than later is a good way to go. On March 30th, we would address instruction. There are not as many instruction, there are about 23 instruction policies. And then in April, we would do business and facilities. So you may get about 20 policies. Again, we'll pull out ones that we find to be especially sensitive, but I think it's just a matter of we will, each of the staff members has their area that they will address. We will call out any major changes or things that trustees want to consider. It's going to be a fair amount of work on the staff side. And we're trying to make it as easy as possible through the trustee side. I think the piece that is new to staff, and we will look at how the trustees will look at this, is that the new e-board, you know how we do the board agenda now on Simply, that the policies are available on there. We will process them in that way, which is different than if we think about, we've been through the pandemic. Suzanne was the executive assistant when we started the pandemic, and then Kelly was with us for a year, and now Barbara is with us. Little known fact is that Barbara was a legal secretary and has great attention to detail, so I'm confident that we'll be able to get through this probably by June, we will be mostly done with this. But this is a huge undertaking. But we just have to recognize this is a normal way of doing district business, and we just have to catch up, right? That's all we have to do. Are there any questions?
Just how will we get the policies if we're going to be receiving 20 of them at a time?
Yeah.
How are we going to receive those like 2 weeks in advance instead of like 1 week or 4 days or 5
Yeah,
days?
what we will try to do to the best degree that we can is if the board meeting is on Wednesday, we'll try to get them to you the previous Wednesday so that you'll have 1 whole week to take a look at them. If there's any way that we could do it even the weekend before that so that you had 2 weekends to take a look at that, we'll do our very best that we can on that one. For those of us that are comfortable doing it on the computer, I think that the Assembly software will probably be a good way to take a look at that. I just don't know what it looks like from the trustees side. We're just beginning to look at that from a staff side, and we haven't done it yet. So we need to get but I think it would make sense to do that, especially for those of us that are comfortable doing that. And if we're not, we can always print off hard copies of that. When I used to do it on paper, it got to be a lot of paper, but for some people, that's what they feel comfortable in. It's more important that you have the information and have the comfort than we're all either software or paper. So we'll try to give you 2 weekends that we can, to the greatest degree that we can. Questions, Linda? No questions. So I like the advice of starting with HR, and we have a number that we'll be bringing to you. At some point, we have to just be realistic about, is it too much? Is it not enough? maybe we could start, because I said that we were gonna start with some of those easy ones where it's just changing the title. That'll help us move more quickly through things. But please be honest with us, when it's too much, it's too much. That's like much of the pandemic, as we feel like we're behind and we feel like we're not doing enough. But we can only do what we can do, and it's important that we do it thoughtfully. But it also, you know, some of the things that come up in business, we're not going to have recommendations for. That's pretty much prescribed either by law or by CSBA. We do subscribe to CSBA's Policy Plus. That's how we know which policies that need updating, because as the laws change, CSBA recommends, you know, you need to change these board policies. So there's not that much. Sometimes there's option 1 or option 2, but there's not that much discretion that we all have on that. So, all right, that's just for your information.
Future agenda item?
The very last one is we are going to have a little bit busy of a spring, and so we were going to try to do in January. We did have a request to do something on the school fields, and so Josie will present a review of the school fields. We'll have a bond project update. We're required to do those school accountability report cards. I don't think that's going to take that much in terms of board involvement, but it'll be important for you to see them. We thought in January we would try to do the comprehensive school safety plans. I think since in closed session we would be doing the superintendent's evaluation, I think we should probably wait and do that in February so that we can do that in closed session. And then in January, we would get started on our first chunk of manual maintenance. So I
Say that
think
again? You're gonna, your evaluation's moving or the meeting with negotiations?
so if we do my evaluation in closed session on January 19th, right?
Okay.
I think we should probably not do the comprehensive school safety plans in January. I think we should probably do those in February. And we discuss those in closed session because of the tactical nature. Yes?
Unfortunately, I do have a request to add something.
Okay.
Just because today in the news, they were talking about the new variant of COVID that's out and that it's doubling, you know, within 2 days' time, and it's just spreading like wildfire. And so I'm just curious if we can have an update on whatever is happening, because we're going to be gone, you know, when all this is probably happening.
Absolutely, and it would be inappropriate for me to give you that update right now, but I can give you an update this weekend around all of the things that we're doing to prepare for that. We absolutely know. So I'm not going to keep going on that because it's an unagendized item, but we can do an update on COVID at that point. I do want to make sure that when we do the manual maintenance that we give about an hour of time in a board meeting. So just making sure that our board meetings move along. Just preparing for that. January also is a busy month. We're going to have the special closed meeting on January 5th. Public comment will be in person at 4 o'clock. And then on January 12th, we'll have our board work study for 4 to 7. And I will talk to Nicole Anderson about a dress code conversation in that one.
So you just said that the public comment needs to be in person?
It is in person.
It can't be Zoom?
Yeah, the whole, because we don't film our closed session meetings.
Oh my God. Is there any other way? I'm just thinking about the new variant and what's happening and if it's going to be safe to do that.
Can you Zoom public comment?
So we can Zoom public comment. We pay $400 per meeting to do that. I'm happy to do that if that's important to the group.
I think we something we don't know about right now, and we just know that there's the possibility that, you know, COVID is spreading even more with the new variant. I'm just putting it out there.
That's for January 5th. That's for January 5th. We can figure it out before then.
Okay.
We'll see, at least check in 2 weeks before, see what the numbers are, and make a decision.
Can people phone in?
Yeah.
Just like,
We can do anything that we want. I just want to be clear that that it's going to be 20 minutes and we pay $400 for each of those. I'm not opposed one way or the other to do that. Perhaps we could just do Zoom that wouldn't be on Pacifica Coast TV. We can probably also do that as well.
Anything else? Anything else? Everybody good? All right. I guess we can adjourn. Meeting adjourned at 8:26 p.m.
All right, amazing.